I don't remember the night my mom left me, but I've imagined it 1,000 times. Grandpa told me it was raining hard, the kind of storm that rattled the roof and made the power flicker. I was 4 months old, wrapped in a thin blanket inside a quiet house. She left a short note on the table. It said only, "I can't do this anymore." No name. No goodbye. Just those 5 words. When Grandpa found me, I was crying so hard my face was red. He picked me up, held me against his chest, and whispered, "Don't worry, little man. You're safe now." He told me later that in that moment, he made a promise to never let me feel unwanted again. Love these stories? Hit subscribe, smash like and tell us where you're watching from. He warmed milk on the stove, fed me drop by drop, and sang an old song his wife used to love. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, I fell asleep in his arms. That's how my life began, not with a mother's kiss, but with my grandfather's promise. I didn't know it then, but the woman who walked away that night would come back one day, not for me, but for what he left behind. Grandpa never liked to talk about my mom after that night. Whenever I asked why she left, he would sigh and say, "Some people run from love, Joel. But we don't chase them. We build our own." He kept that promise every single day. He woke up early to make oatmeal and packed my lunch with notes that said things like, "You're stronger than you think." He taught me to tie my shoes, ride a bike, and hammer nails straight. In his small workshop behind the house, he said that good woodwork, like good character, takes patience. We didn't have much, but we had enough. The old house smelled of sawdust and warm bread. At night, he would read stories until I fell asleep. I used to pretend I didn't notice when he paused on the mother parts, his voice catching just a little. Once, when I was 7, I asked, "Will she ever come back?" He looked at me quietly and said, "If she does, it'll be when she needs something. Not when you do." I didn't understand then. But his words stayed with me, like nails set deep, waiting for their purpose. As I got older, the questions grew louder in my head. Every school project that asked about family made my stomach twist. Other kids drew pictures of moms baking cookies or cheering at soccer games. I drew my grandpa, standing tall with a hammer in his hand. Some kids whispered about me being the one without parents. I laughed it off, but it stung. Grandpa always told me, people talk when they don't understand love. Still, I couldn't stop wondering what my mom looked like. Did she ever think about me? Did she feel guilty? Grandpa never showed me her picture. He said she didn't leave one behind. Our house sat at the edge of town, near the old railway line. I'd watch the trains and imagine her on one of them, going somewhere far away, not even knowing the color of my eyes. But Grandpa filled the emptiness with lessons. He taught me to respect time, tools, and truth. Those 3 things, he said, build everything worth keeping. Even though a shadow of her lingered in every question I didn't ask, I started to believe maybe we were enough, just him and me. For a long time, we were. The workshop was Grandpa's world, and soon, it became mine too. It smelled of pine, oil, and old coffee. Every shelf had a story. Every tool had a name. I learned that wood could listen if you treated it right. Never rush a cut, Grandpa would say, his rough hands guiding mine on the saw handle. You rush wood, it splits. You rush life, it breaks. We built birdhouses, tables, and once, a small chest for my school things. He carved my initials, JN, on the lid. A man's work should always carry his name, he told me. It's how the world remembers you. Sometimes he'd stop working and stare out the window for a long time. I'd catch him tracing the edge of his wedding ring, worn thin but still shining. I think he missed Grandma more than he ever admitted. He never spoke badly of my mom, but I could feel the hurt behind his silence. Still, he never let anger win. Forgiveness, he'd say, isn't weakness. It's freedom. I didn't fully understand back then. I just wanted to build things that didn't fall apart, even though, deep inside, a part of me already had. When I turned 10, Grandpa threw a small party in our backyard. He hung streamers made of colored paper and baked a chocolate cake that leaned a little to one side. We laughed so hard when the candles melted before I could blow them out. Only a few neighbors came by, bringing small gifts wrapped in newspaper. It wasn't fancy, but it felt warm, until Grandpa checked the mailbox. Inside was a plain white envelope with my name on it, printed, not written. No return address. No card, no message, just a single $20 bill folded twice. Grandpa's face tightened. Probably from an old friend, he muttered, slipping the money back into the envelope. But I saw his hands shake. That night, I asked, was it from her? He didn't answer. He just said, some gifts cost more than they're worth. I hid the envelope in my drawer and never spent the money. It didn't feel like a gift, it felt like a ghost, a reminder that somewhere out there, my mother still existed but wanted nothing more than silence. I went to bed that night feeling older than 10, wondering if love could be mailed in cash. By the time I turned 16, Grandpa said I had a head full of books and hands made for work. He called that a dangerous combination, the kind that changes a man's life. I loved school, even though I never quite fit in. I wasn't rich or popular, but I liked learning how the world worked. History, literature, and especially law. There was something about justice that called to me, maybe because life hadn't always been fair to us. Grandpa used to say, if you know the rules, you can protect the people who don't. Those words stuck with me. When I got the letter saying I'd earned a scholarship to a top high school in the city, Grandpa cried for the first time in years. He tried to hide it behind a cough, but I saw. Your grandma would be proud, he said softly. We celebrated with pancakes and orange juice, just the two of us. He told me, you'll see the world now, Joel. Just don't let it change the good in you. I promised him I wouldn't. I didn't know then that keeping that promise would be the hardest thing I'd ever do. It started with a cough. Just a small one at first. Grandpa said it was nothing, just old age catching its breath. But soon, the coughs came harder, deeper, leaving him pale and gasping. He refused to see a doctor until one morning he nearly collapsed in the workshop. The wood he was sanding slipped from his hands, crashing to the floor. That scared me more than anything. I called an ambulance, even though he told me not to. The hospital smelled like bleach and worry. I sat beside him as the doctor spoke words that felt too big, chronic heart failure. I didn't understand it all, but I knew it meant things would change. At home, I took over the chores. I cooked, cleaned, and helped him to bed. Sometimes, late at night, I'd hear him whisper my name in his sleep. I think he was talking to Grandma, telling her he was tired. But he never stopped teaching me. Even with the oxygen tube in his nose, he'd say, Joel, remember, when life breaks you, fix what you can, and forgive the rest. I smiled and nodded. But forgiveness was starting to sound harder than it used to. Grandpa passed away on a quiet Sunday morning. The sky was gray, the kind he liked, because he said cloudy days made the world honest. I was sitting by his bed, holding his hand when he took his last breath. He didn't say goodbye, just smiled softly, as if he already knew I'd be okay. The house felt too big after that. Every creak of the floor sounded like him walking, every smell of sawdust like a ghost trying to stay. I couldn't bear to clean his room for weeks. A few days later, I found an envelope inside the drawer of his desk. My name was written on it in his neat handwriting, for Joel, when I'm gone. Inside was a short letter. He wrote. Family isn't always blood. It's the people who choose to stay. You were my greatest work, Joel. When the world tries to take from you, remember, love is not measured in money, but in mercy. Keep building. I cried until my chest hurt. I didn't know what the world would take from me yet, but I would soon. That letter became my map for everything that came next. A week after Grandpa's funeral, the lawyer called. His voice was polite, but his words hit harder than I expected. "Joel, your grandfather's estate has been finalized. He left everything to you." I froze. Everything? The house, the workshop, his savings, his investments, all of it. Then came the warning. "There's a complication. Your mother and father have filed a claim. They want a portion of the estate." I laughed. Or maybe I barked. My voice shook. My parents? After everything? They abandoned me. The lawyer sighed. "Legally, anyone related can contest a will. They're taking that route." Anger surged hotter than anything I'd ever felt. The people who left me at 4 months were now claiming what my grandfather built, what he chose to leave me. I thought of the Sundays I spent in the workshop, the lessons he drilled into me, the letter he left behind. Family isn't always blood. It's the people who choose to stay. I clenched my fists. They wanted a fight. Fine. But I wouldn't just defend what was mine. I would make them see the truth. Revenge didn't have to be cruel, it just had to be inevitable. The summons arrived on a rainy Monday morning, stamped with the courthouse seal. I held it in my hands, my fingers trembling. Not from fear, but from a cold, burning resolve. Joel Nick versus Celeste and Gavin Harris. My parents' names stared back at me like a punch to the chest. They were suing me for my grandfather's estate, claiming I manipulated him, that I somehow stole what was rightfully theirs. I read the complaint again. They described me as greedy, manipulative, undue influence. Every word felt like a lie spat in my face. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I did what Grandpa would have done. I called Amelia Carter, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney who had once interned with him. "Amelia," I said, my voice steady, "they think they can take what I earned by staying. I need you to prove the truth." She listened, her eyes narrowing. "Joel, this will get messy. But we can win. You've got the evidence, Grandpa's journals, the photos, everything. Blood doesn't matter here. Presence does." I nodded. Presence. That had always been the measure of love, the measure of family. And I had 32 years of proof to back me up. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and anxiety. I clutched Grandpa's letter in my pocket, reading it over and over as if it were armor. Amelia walked beside me, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor, her presence steadying me. Inside the courtroom, I saw them, Mom and Dad, dressed in sharp suits, their faces masks of polite indignation. They didn't see the boy they left behind. They only saw what they thought they deserved. Judge Reynolds, a tall man with kind eyes, called the court to order. "Let's proceed with opening statements." Mom's attorney went first, his voice smooth and rehearsed. He painted me as manipulative, claiming I isolated Grandpa in his final years, using him to secure the estate. I felt my jaw tighten. Amelia rose calmly. Her voice carried across the room, steady and unwavering. "Your Honor, the evidence shows a life built on presence, care, and love. The defendant was cared for, nurtured, and chosen every day by the decedent. That is the basis of this estate, not blood or absence." I looked at Grandpa's empty chair in the gallery and imagined him nodding. I would honor him. I would fight, not with hatred, but with the truth. Amelia called Martha Wilson to the stand first. She had been our housekeeper for over 25 years, a quiet woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen everything. She knew the truth. "Mrs. Wilson," Amelia began, "can you tell the court about Joel's relationship with his grandfather?" Martha's hands folded neatly in her lap. "Every Sunday, Joel was here. Cooking, cleaning, helping your father, no, helping his grandfather with whatever was needed. He never missed a single Sunday, even through college and law school. Mom tried to object, claiming it was biased testimony. Judge Reynolds shook his head. Observed behavior, not opinion. Proceed. Martha continued, describing the care Joel gave to Grandpa, medications, meals, even late-night conversations about cases and life lessons. He stayed, she said softly. He chose to stay. I felt a lump in my throat. 32 years of Sundays, 32 years of loyalty and love, finally being seen and acknowledged in front of everyone. I glanced at Mom and Dad. Their faces tightened, their rehearsed anger starting to crack. Amelia nodded to me, almost imperceptibly. This was just the beginning, but the first pieces of truth were falling into place. Amelia approached the bench with a leather-bound binder, worn from years of handling. She opened it carefully. Your Honor, these are the journals of Franklin Cole, spanning over 3 decades. I felt my chest tighten. Every page, every line, was a piece of Grandpa's life, a map of the love and care he poured into me. She read aloud. December 18, 1998. Celeste promised to visit for Christmas. She didn't show. Joel stayed. He helped June make the lemon poppy seed cake. I am proud of him. Page after page, the pattern was clear. Mom and Dad's absence, Joel's presence, my grandfather's notes documenting birthdays, graduations, even minor illnesses. Each entry validated what I had always known. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line, her composure cracking ever so slightly. Dad avoided my gaze entirely. Amelia turned to Judge Reynolds. Your Honor, these journals are contemporaneous documentation of Joel's life with his grandfather. They are admissible evidence. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of 32 years of care now transformed into armor. My parents could lie all they wanted, but the truth was here, etched in ink, impossible to ignore. Grandpa's voice, even in writing, guided me. Justice isn't revenge. It's the restoration of truth. Amelia laid a thick folder of papers on the table. Your Honor, these are Judge Cole's financial records spanning 22 years, she said, flipping it open to the first page. I felt a familiar surge of anger and vindication. Every canceled check, every bank statement, every transfer of money to Mom and Dad was documented here. Grandpa sent them exactly $3,400 each month. $3,400. 22 years. $845,000 in total. Not once did they visit, call consistently, or show care for me. Mom's hands twitched as she glanced at the records. Dad's jaw tightened. Their carefully constructed image of benevolent parents was crumbling in the courtroom. Amelia spoke clearly, deliberately. These documents show Judge Cole's support to the plaintiffs, despite their absence. Compare that with Joel's consistent presence, care, and love. Presence, not blood, defines family here. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my racing heart. 32 years of Sundays, meals, homework, and laughter, backed up by Grandpa's meticulous journals and now financial proof. The scales of truth were tilting in my favor, and my parents' claims of manipulation felt increasingly hollow. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe justice could be more than a word, it could be real. Richard Dale, Mom's attorney, rose from his seat, his suit impeccable, voice smooth and practiced. Mrs. Harris, he began, you claim Joel manipulated his grandfather. Can you explain why he spent so much time with him? Mom faltered, glancing at Dad, searching for support. He just wanted to help, she said, her voice tight. Dale smirked, sensing hesitation. Yet, the financial records show your consistent absence. You received $845,000 over 22 years without visiting or providing care. How do you reconcile that? Amelia leaned forward. Your Honor, may I? Judge Reynolds nodded. She stepped toward the stand, her calm presence commanding attention. Mr. Dale, the evidence clearly shows absence, not neglect. Joel did not seek inheritance, he upheld family values, caring for his grandfather when you refused. Mom's hands trembled slightly as Amelia laid out a timeline: birthdays missed, school recitals ignored, graduations unattended. Each date, each failure, exposed the stark truth: they chose absence, I chose presence. I sat tall, grandfather's lessons echoing in my mind. Justice isn't revenge, Joel. It's the restoration of truth. The courtroom seemed to lean forward, listening. The tide was turning. For the first time, I felt the scales shift decisively. My parents' lies were crumbling, and truth was rising in their place. Amelia called my childhood mentor, Professor Harmon, to the stand. He adjusted his glasses, clearing his throat. I supervised Joel during law school while he cared for his grandfather. I watched him closely. Every word mattered. Did Joel ever discuss inheritance or financial gain with you? Amelia asked. Professor Harmon shook his head. Never. He spent weekends studying, helping Franklin Cole with household tasks, attending to his needs. His focus was never money, it was responsibility, loyalty, and respect. Mom shifted in her seat, a slight twitch betraying irritation. Dad avoided eye contact entirely. Amelia continued, her voice calm but firm. Professor, can you speak to Joel's character under stress? When juggling school, work, and caregiving? He never complained, the professor replied. He balanced every obligation with integrity and care. His decisions were ethical, deliberate, and selfless. I felt a swell of pride. Grandpa's values, instilled in me over decades, were now testified to in a courtroom. Each witness, each account, layered a shield of truth around me. The gallery murmured in acknowledgement. My parents' carefully rehearsed facade was cracking. Their absence contrasted sharply with my decades of steadfast presence. I realized, finally, that justice wasn't just a dream. It was within reach, built from the life I chose to live, not the blood I inherited. Just when I thought the courtroom drama had peaked, Dale stood abruptly. Your Honor, we have one final witness, he announced, a sly smile crossing his face. My stomach tightened. Who could they possibly have that I hadn't anticipated? A man in his mid-60s approached the stand, silver hair, wire-rimmed glasses. Dale introduced him as Dr. William Barrett, claiming he'd treated Grandpa in his final months. My pulse quickened. Something about him seemed familiar. Amelia rose immediately, her expression sharp. Your Honor, this witness was not disclosed during discovery. Judge Reynolds glanced at the papers. Limited testimony will be allowed. Barrett adjusted his glasses, middle finger nudging the bridge, a strange habit I recognized from years ago, during one of Grandpa's lectures. My mind raced. I knew this gesture. Dale asked, Doctor, did you observe signs of confusion or undue influence over Franklin Cole? Barrett hesitated, glancing toward Mom. Yes, he seemed pressured. I gritted my teeth. My grandfather's final months were being misrepresented. But deep inside, I felt calm. Amelia whispered, watch closely. Truth has a way of revealing itself. The courtroom held its breath. I had no doubt, the next move would decide if justice or deceit would prevail. Amelia approached Dr. Barrett with a stack of documents. Doctor, who was your primary physician for Franklin Cole? Barrett faltered. Dr. Thomas Reynolds, his eyes flicked toward Mom, who was biting her lip, anxious. Amelia held up the complete medical records from Grandpa's actual doctor. These show full cognitive function until his last days, correct? Barrett swallowed hard. Yes, but. No buts, Amelia said firmly. Your limited visits cannot outweigh decades of documented health evaluations. The records clearly indicate sound mind, memory intact, decision-making uncompromised. I felt a surge of vindication. Every manipulation, every false accusation my parents made was crumbling. Dale's face went pale as Amelia continued. Dr. Barrett, you opened your practice only 8 months ago, correct? Yes. And your relationship with the plaintiff? He froze. She's my cousin. The courtroom murmured. Mom's carefully constructed argument collapsed, her cousin's testimony undermining her credibility entirely. I straightened in my seat, grandfather's lessons echoing, justice is restoration of truth, Joel, not revenge. For the first time, the scales of fairness felt balanced. The truth, painstakingly documented, could no longer be denied or distorted. My parents' lies were unraveling, and I was ready to stand tall, armed with facts and decades of love and care. The courtroom hummed with anticipation as Dale rose first. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. Your Honor, this case transcends mere documents. It's about blood, family, and a mother seeking to restore her rightful place in her son's life through inheritance. Mom sat straighter, eyes fixed on me, as if sheer will could tilt the scales in her favor. Dad fiddled with his tie, avoiding eye contact. Amelia rose slowly, holding only a single sheet of paper. Your Honor, this case has never been about blood, she said, her voice calm but unwavering. It's about choice. Presence, not absence, defines family. She carefully laid out Grandpa's letter, written 2 weeks before his death. I choose Joel, not because of blood, but because he stayed. Presence is family. The gallery grew silent. Every eye was on the judge, and in that moment, I felt Grandpa's voice in my mind, steady and resolute. Justice isn't revenge, it's the restoration of truth. Amelia concluded, evidence shows decades of care and presence, alongside financial and emotional absence from the plaintiffs. This is the story of a life lived with integrity. I straightened, feeling a surge of quiet triumph. The courtroom had seen the truth. Now, it was in Judge Reynolds' hands. Judge Reynolds removed his glasses, polishing them deliberately. The room held its breath. Every murmur stopped. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, he began, voice steady, it is clear that Franklin Cole executed his will with full capacity and deliberate intention. The plaintiffs have failed to provide credible evidence of undue influence or diminished capacity. My chest tightened. Mom's face drained of color, Dad's jaw clenched. The claim is dismissed with prejudice, the judge continued. Furthermore, the plaintiff shall bear the defendant's reasonable attorney fees, as permitted by law for frivolous claims. The gavel struck. Sharp. Final. A weight lifted off my shoulders. Not for the inheritance, but for the vindication of decades of love, presence, and loyalty. Every Sunday dinner, every missed holiday endured alone, every story I absorbed from Grandpa, all of it mattered. I sat back, letting relief wash over me. Amelia gave a subtle nod, her eyes reflecting shared triumph. Outside, the courtroom began to empty, whispers following Mom and Dad as they departed. No acknowledgement, no apology, just the absence they had always embodied. I smiled faintly, turning to Amelia. Justice, I whispered, feeling Grandpa's legacy alive within me. It's finally justice. After the courtroom emptied, I caught up with Mom in the hallway. She stopped abruptly, perfume sharp in the air. Joel, we should talk, she said, her voice tight, rehearsed. I studied her carefully. 32 years of absence didn't vanish with a few courtroom tears. About what? I asked, keeping my tone even. About this division, the inheritance, she began. We could settle, split it 50-50. I shook my head slowly. You had 32 years to be my family. You chose not to. This isn't about money, it's about presence. You left. I stayed. Her lips trembled. We made mistakes. You abandoned me at 4 months, I interrupted, voice steady but sharp. Every missed birthday, every missed holiday, every time I waited for you at the door and you didn't show, that is your legacy. Dad appeared beside her, expression unreadable. He opened his mouth, but I didn't give him a chance. I don't need your apology or your inheritance. Grandpa chose wisely. He recognized who stayed, who cared, who loved without conditions. That's who I am. That's who my family is. I turned and walked away, feeling the weight of 32 years lift. The past couldn't hurt me anymore. Only truth, only justice, remained. After the trial, Amelia and I returned to Grandpa's house. The familiar scent of old books and polished wood greeted me like an embrace. The hibiscus in the garden swayed gently, crimson petals catching the late afternoon sun. Amelia smiled, placing her hand on my shoulder. You did it, Joel. Justice was served. I nodded, letting myself finally relax. For the first time, the house felt like home rather than a courtroom battlefield. I walked to the kitchen, where Grandpa's old lemon poppy seed cake recipe sat on the counter. I baked quietly, measuring and mixing, feeling his presence in every step. Neighbors and friends who had supported me through the trial began arriving. Laughter filled the rooms, a stark contrast to the tension of recent weeks. My colleagues from the prosecutor's office, people who had seen me in court many times, now celebrated my personal victory. We shared stories of Grandpa and June, remembering Sunday dinners, their guidance, and their unwavering love. Each tale was a reminder, family isn't defined by blood, but by who stays when it matters most. That night, as I placed a slice of lemon cake on Grandpa's favorite plate, I realized, justice was more than winning the trial. It was honoring the legacy of those who truly loved me. The morning after the celebration, I returned to my office, the weight of victory already giving way to responsibility. Grandpa's estate wasn't just wealth, it was legacy, a responsibility I had inherited alongside it. Files, contracts, and legal documents lined my desk. Each one reminded me of what had been entrusted to me: businesses, charitable donations, scholarships, and the traditions Grandpa had cultivated. I would not allow absent parents or opportunists to tarnish it. Amelia leaned against the doorframe, coffee in hand. You're taking it all in stride, she said, smiling. Not everyone could manage this without losing themselves. I chuckled softly. It's not about the money. It's about making sure the choices Grandpa made, the values he lived by, continue. Integrity, loyalty, presence, that's the real inheritance. Calls came from family, friends, neighbors, and colleagues, each offering congratulations and assistance. Their support reminded me of something Grandpa always said: family is who shows up, Joel. Always who shows up. I began drafting plans for scholarships in Grandpa's name, funding for local programs, and continuing Sunday dinner traditions. My parents' absence had left a void, but it had also given me clarity. Justice had been served, yes, but now, the real work began, to honor those who stayed. Weeks later, I found myself standing before Mom and Dad again. Not in court, not under threat of lawsuits, but in a quiet office at the estate's legal headquarters. The tension between us was a tangible wall. I need closure, I said, voice steady. Not money, not apologies, just truth. Why did you leave me? Mom's eyes flickered, guilt and regret battling the pride she'd worn in court. We thought we were protecting you, she murmured, voice fragile. Life was hard. We didn't know how to. You abandoned me, I interrupted gently but firmly. Not once, not twice, but for years. And now, you tried to erase the consequences of that choice with lawsuits and theatrics. Dad's hands trembled, his composure cracking. Joel, I don't want excuses. I want understanding, I said. Grandpa and June chose differently. They stayed. That taught me everything about love, loyalty, and responsibility. Mom swallowed hard, tears forming. We failed you. I nodded. The words were heavy, but I felt a strange peace. I had faced them, demanded truth, and affirmed my own worth. My past was no longer a chain. I was free, strengthened by those who had actually stayed when it mattered. The sun rose over Charleston, casting golden light on Grandpa's estate. I walked through the garden, hibiscus blooms bright against the sky, their crimson petals reminding me of the love and care that had shaped my life. Amelia trailed behind, carrying a stack of documents. "Everything is in order," she said, smiling. "Scholarships, charitable trusts, the businesses, all ready for your guidance." I nodded, inhaling deeply. Each responsibility was a tribute to Grandpa and June. Their values would continue through me, their legacy alive in every decision I made. I placed fresh hibiscus at their graves, kneeling in silent gratitude. 32 years of Sunday dinners, of lessons in integrity, patience, and love, those were the true inheritance. Money, titles, or property could never replace it. Back at the estate, I opened Grandpa's leather-bound journals. Each page reminded me, family is not defined by blood, but by who chooses to stay. I traced the handwriting, feeling his wisdom resonate through me. Later, in my chambers as the youngest state judge in South Carolina, I presided over cases with the same fairness and dedication Grandpa had shown. Every decision honored those who stayed. Every life I touched reflected their legacy. I smiled quietly. Justice, love, and loyalty, the true inheritance, was secured. And now, I was ready to protect it, always. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.